the 1964 psychological thriller Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte was directed by Robert Aldrich, and it starred Bette Davis, Olivia de Havilland, Joseph Cotton, Agnes Moorehead, and Mary Astor. When the Louisiana Highway Commission decides to build a road through her property, Charlotte Hollis threatens the workmen with a shotgun. You see, 37 years earlier, Charlotte's married lover, John Mayhew, was murdered. And though the killer was never discovered, the local townspeople are convinced of Charlotte's guilt. Charlotte herself believed that her father killed Mayhew, and she became a recluse, living only with her housekeeper, Velma. In this deteriorating Hollis mansion, she seeks out help in fighting against the Highway Commission from Miriam, a poor cousin who lived with the family as a girl. Upon her return to help out, Miriam renews her relationship with Drew Bayless, the local doctor who jilted her after the murder. The eccentric Charlotte becomes progressively wilder with Miriam's arrival. Her nights are haunted by mysterious piano playing of the song Mayhew wrote for her, and by the appearance of Mayhew's disembodied hand and head. Velma, the housekeeper, starts realizing that Miriam and Drew are trying to drive Charlotte completely mad in order to get her money. She seeks out the help of Mr. Willis, a Lloyd's of London insurance investigator who is still interested in the Mayhew case. He had visited Mayhew's ailing widow, Jewel. Miriam ends up killing the housekeeper when she tries to remove Charlotte from the mansion to keep her safe. Then Miriam and Drew trick Charlotte into shooting Drew with a gun that's loaded with blanks. Miriam helps Charlotte dispose of his body in the swamp, but Drew's reappearance later on completely reduces Charlotte to whimpering insanity. Believing that Charlotte is completely mad and secure in her room, Miriam and Drew go out to the garden to discuss what they have done. As Miriam embraces Drew, she looks up to see Charlotte, who has overheard them in the garden. Charlotte pushes a huge stone urn from the balcony above, crushing both of them to death. Later, as Charlotte is taken away by authorities, Willis, the inspector, hands her an envelope from the now-dead Jewel Mayhew, and it contains Jewel's confession of the murder of her husband. Initially, Joan Crawford and Bette Davis were cast in this movie in hopes of repeating the success of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane from 1962. Bette got a producer credit, and she conspired to make things very difficult for Joan, who eventually acted too ill to work, causing long production delays and resulting in her being dropped and replaced by Olivia de Havilland. Joan discovered the news of her firing on the radio after it had been leaked to the press by Betty's agent. Until his death in 1959, Joan Crawford had been married to Alfred Steele, the president of Pepsi-Cola. After his death, she was elected to fill his spot on the Pepsi board of directors. While making this film, before she was fired, Crawford had Pepsi-Cola vending machines installed all over the set so they could consume this during rehearsals, costume tests, and even when they were filming in Baton Rouge. In an effort to spite her co-star, Bette Davis had Coca-Cola vending machines installed as well. These two hated each other. With Olivia de Havilland on board to replace Joan Crawford, the cast and crew were scheduled to return to Louisiana so the exteriors could be reshot. But a week before their proposed departure, the reshoot was completely canceled, and the existing soundstage exteriors were used instead. If you'll notice, you'll never see Miriam in any of the real Louisiana location shots. It's said that Joan Crawford was just a handful down in Baton Rouge. During her trip there, she brought along her maid, her hairdresser, and a makeup man. But as luck would have it, when they arrived at the airport, there was nobody from the company to greet them. There had been a mistake in scheduling, and everybody was filming at the mansion. Somehow Crawford's arrival was not relayed to the proper driver. All of this filming started off on a bad foot with Joan Crawford. The entire production company was put up at the Belmont Hotel, which is a mile outside of Baton Rouge. When Joan Crawford arrived there, her rooms had not been made up yet. She had to sit for an hour in the hotel's lobby. When she was finally put into the bungalow, it was right next to the garbage disposal unit. That evening, when the company returned from filming, Joan complained to Bette Davis about this. Davis responded to her in her usual tone. "Oh, Joan, pull yourself together. This is Baton Rouge, not Beverly Hills. Quit your griping." On Wednesday, July 29th, 1964, Crawford worked till 1:30 p.m. At that time, she informed the director that she had overtaxed herself the previous day and that she needed to return to a less strenuous shooting schedule. The director told her that he wanted her to be examined by the company's insurance doctor. Resenting the director's suspicions and harassment, Joan returned to her dressing room and made it clear that she would no longer talk directly to the director. She would use her makeup man to do the communicating. It put this makeup man named Monty Westmore in a very awkward position. Now, there is one time during the film, at around 28 minutes, that you can actually see Joan Crawford in the movie. The taxi carrying Miriam pulls up in front of the mansion, and for 2 seconds, Joan Crawford can be seen peering out from the back seat window, wearing dark sunglasses and dark clothes. When Olivia de Havilland, as Miriam, is seen in the taxi, she is wearing a hat, and her clothing is light-colored. Allegedly, on the last day of shooting in Louisiana, which was June 12th, after some late afternoon shots, Joan Crawford was relaxing in her trailer, sticking around to do additional scenes if needed. She apparently dozed off because when she woke up, it was completely dark. She sent her maid to check and see when shooting would be completed. She found the place to be completely empty. The crew had completely packed up and left, leaving Joan at the rear of the house in her trailer with no transportation back to the motel. Outraged, she returned to Los Angeles the very next day and checked herself into Cedars-Sinai Hospital. The director had a heck of a time getting to a point to where he could meet with Olivia de Havilland to discuss the movie. He had to take 3 planes, a train, and a taxi up a goat trail to get to her house, which was in the mountains of Switzerland. It took him 4 days to convince her to step into the role and replace Joan Crawford. Because there was no time to redo the costumes for Miriam, many of her clothes came from Olivia de Havilland's personal wardrobe. One of the dresses that Olivia wears during the dinner scene when she's eating with Davis and Cotton was a Christian Dior dress. This dress included matching shoes, and in 2019, de Havilland's family sold this dress for $8,125. When Joan Crawford was replaced by de Havilland for this role of Miriam, the production resumed on Wednesday, September 9th, 1964. And the cast and crew, especially Davis and de Havilland, pulled what you would call a ding-dong the witch is dead routine by toasting one another with Coca-Cola. This was all done at the expense of Joan Crawford, with her being on the board of Pepsi-Cola. Joining in all these toasts were Joseph Cotton and the director, Robert Aldrich. Everyone was glad to see her gone. Everyone felt like she was manipulating the director and the production just because her and Bette Davis hated each other so much. Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte was another hit for the director Aldrich. It opened to almost all positive reviews. The movie has some outstanding acting, and the highlight of the whole film is Agnes Moorehead. What an unbelievable job she does as the housekeeper. Take a look at this classic movie from the 60s. I think you'll be glad you watched it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.